It's 2026 and you still believe in God? 2026 since when? 2026 years since what? If you didn't know, Jesus literally reset the clock. And in this video, I'm going to share reasons why I believe in God and reasons why I believe in Jesus. There's so many reasons. I'm just going to give you the ones that personally convinced me the most, and stay till the end because I'm going to share the most important part about why I believe in God. So to start it off, I think we should just go to what I was already talking about, which was 2026. The calendar is literally based off of Jesus. Jesus literally reset the clock. We didn't just randomly decide to start counting years all of a sudden. 2026 years ago, somebody didn't just go, you know what? Let's make today year one. And let's keep the calendar going from here. Let's start today. No. And what do I mean by Jesus reset the calendar? So before Jesus reset the calendar, people were tracking time by kings, by empires, by major events, kind of like the third year of this king or after this big battle. There was no like set number like it is today with 2026. And then Jesus shows up. Now, mind you, he didn't lead an army. He didn't take any political power. And then they literally crucify him. They crucify an innocent man. But instead of just disappearing off the face of the earth, his influence explodes. And eventually, after he died and resurrected, the world started measuring time around Jesus. So when we say 2026, what we're really saying is it's been about 2,000 years since the time of Jesus. We literally base our time off of Jesus. And I'm not saying that automatically proves that God is real and Jesus is real, but I am saying that something big had to have happened for everyone, even people who didn't believe in Jesus, to base their entire lives off of this calendar. Like literally atheists have to say it's 2026. And before we get into the other reasons, let's just explain what it means to be an atheist. To be an atheist means you don't believe God. You're saying there is no creator, no intelligent cause behind this earth, no mind behind the universe. So you basically believe that nothing created everything. Now, the reason that doesn't make sense to me is because everything I see in this world was created by somebody. This microphone, it didn't just poof, come out of nowhere. Somebody created it. Everything we see on this earth came from something. Buildings come from builders. Paintings come from painters. And whether you realize it or not, whether you believe in God or not, you have faith. Because if you don't believe in God, you're believing that nothing created everything. You're believing in something, even if you don't realize it. Faith and doubt both require you to believe in something you can't see. I mean, some of the smartest people in the world are becoming believers in God. Even Elon Musk recently said he believes in a creator. He believed this world was created by a God. And I'll just give a few examples of people who were really smart, who were actually atheists and then became believers in God. One of the people is Anthony Flew. He was one of the most famous atheists of the 20th century. He literally taught atheism at a school. He wrote books arguing against God. And what changed his mind? Science. Another person is Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel, his book is amazing, The Case for Christ, and he has a bunch of other great books as well, but he was literally a committed atheist. Like, he was full-on atheist, and his wife became a Christian, and he was like, oh man, I gotta disprove Christianity. So he literally went on a journey to try to prove her wrong, and he studied the resurrection, he studied historical documents, he studied eyewitness testimony, he studied the disciples, and what happened? He literally became a Christian. And there's so many different people and stories I could tell you, but I'm gonna get into the reasons that I believe in God and what has really changed my life and made me firm on my belief in God. So let's go. So me personally, all I have to do is really just look around, look at the beach. Okay, I feel like living close to the beach is kind of a cheat code because I mean, there's no way I can look at a sunset and see the beautiful creation and be like, man, this just came out of nowhere. And when I just look around, my mind tells me there's gotta be a God. Not once has my mind been like, yep, this just came out of nowhere. When I look at the world, when I look at nature, when I look at my own body, I have to ask myself a question. Did all of this come by a random explosion, by accident? And my mind tells me no. And did you know the Bible literally says we were made from dust? Humans were made from the dust of the earth. And I grew up thinking, okay, that sounds cool. I don't even know what that means. But recently I learned that our body is literally made from the stuff that comes from the earth. Minerals, elements, raw materials. Those are like the ingredients that our body is made up of. But how many of you guys know ingredients don't make recipes on their own? Think about a cake. What do you need to make a cake? You need flour, you need baking soda, you need eggs, but those are just ingredients. If you don't have a chef to mix them all together to do all the stuff you need to do, then it's not going to become a cake. They don't turn into a cake by themselves. Someone has to put them together on purpose. I mean, think about how complex our body is. Like, our heart pumps blood, our lungs breathe in oxygen, our brain sends signals, our eyes can see, our ears can hear. And think about beaches. One beach has white sand, one beach has golden sand, one beach has darker sand. Just like us. Some of us are white, some of us are black, some of us are different colors and different ethnicities. That's how God created us from the earth. That's why it makes sense. And I mean, there has to be a God, in my opinion. To believe there is no God, you'd have to believe nothing somehow created everything. But when have you ever seen that in your entire life? I have personally never seen nothing create something. So why would I believe that nothing created everything and did it so masterfully that it created our bodies to be functioning the way it does and the earth to be functioning the way it does? Like literally the earth had to have had a designer, an intelligent designer, because if the earth was any closer to the sun, we would literally burn up. And if it was any further, life would not be sustainable because it'd be too cold, it'd be freezing. So now let's talk about Jesus. So Jesus was definitely a real person. Even people who weren't Christian, even secular people, will tell you that Jesus was definitely a real person. So the question really isn't, was Jesus a real person? Because he definitely was. Everybody agrees on that fact. And everybody also agrees and believes that Jesus did die. He was crucified. So the question isn't, was Jesus real or did he die? It's, did he resurrect? Did he rise from that grave? Because if he didn't, then our faith in Jesus is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. So did Jesus rise from that grave? Well, here's what makes me really believe he did. The disciples were willing to die, and they actually did die after Jesus resurrected, and they saw him in person. They literally went out and preached Jesus, and they were unalived. They willingly gave up their life because of what they saw when they saw Jesus. Now, I don't know about you, but I would not go to the point of death, go to the point of being tortured for a lie that I just made up. If they just made up the fact that, you know what, let's tell everybody that Jesus rose from the grave. We'll make it a good story. We'll tell everyone we saw Jesus. Bro, I don't know anybody who would make up a lie like that and be willing to die for it. Like if I got to the point where they were about to chop my head off or something like that, which they literally did to some people, I'd be like, yo, I was just kidding, bro. It was a joke. All right. I didn't see him. He didn't rise from the grave. But they all verifiably went to the point of death and they all died because they were preaching about Jesus. They were telling people about Jesus. Peter was literally crucified upside down. Bruh, if that was me and I was just making up a lie, I would have been like, yo, I was just kidding. It was a joke. But they all died. Brutal deaths. Like it wasn't easy deaths. Making up a lie and dying for it does not sound like something I would do in my free time. That doesn't sound like something I'd do for fun. So the fact that they did this is proof to me that Jesus really did rise from that grave. And if Jesus was not God, if Jesus never did any miracles, if he didn't rise from the grave, then why would we still be talking about him? Why is he still the most famous person in the world? Why does his name still hold so much weight? Why is his name still the most powerful name of all time? Why is Christianity the #1 religion to this day? So why does this one man who came from this little old town of Bethlehem literally reset the clock and create the #1 religion in the world? And something that just blows my mind every single time is when I see this picture right here. So what you're looking at right here is a diagram of all the cross references and connections in the Bible. So every white line you see on the bottom right there is an individual Bible verse. And every line you see in the rainbow is the connection. That's the cross reference to another verse in the Bible. There's so many connections in the Bible. There's literally over 63,000 connections in the Bible. And what makes that crazy is that the Bible was written by 40 different authors. Most of them didn't even know each other, in 3 different languages on 3 separate continents over the span of 1,500 years. I don't think you guys realize how impossible and crazy this really is, because without divine inspiration from the Holy Spirit, there is absolutely no way this could have happened, because they all tell the same message. They all talk about how God is holy, we are sinful, and Jesus saves. That's the main message of the Bible. If the Bible was just written by man without inspiration from the Holy Spirit, then why would it go against all of man's desires? Like the Bible literally is against everything our flesh would want. Like it tells us about how we need to stay away from sin, how we need to deny our flesh, how we need to die to ourselves daily, pick up our cross. And it's crazy because you couldn't get 20 people in the same room and have them agree on lunch. You couldn't get 20 New York Times authors in the same room and have them agree on the same message or the same story, yet alone 40 different authors from 3 different continents with 3 different languages agreeing on the same message. There's cross references in the Bible, meaning that like in the Old Testament, say in the book of Isaiah, there's verses there that cross-reference all the way to the New Testament. There's prophecies in the Old Testament that were fulfilled when Jesus came down to this earth, and there's so many different prophecies that were fulfilled. It's crazy. But really listen to these numbers, because the Bible was written by 40 different authors over the span of 1,500 years on 3 different continents in 3 different languages. Some were kings, some were shepherds, some were fishermen, one was a doctor, and one was a tax collector. And yet they all agree on one main thing: God is holy, we are sinners, and Jesus is the only one who can save us. And pretty much every single historian, whether they're secular or Christian, all come to the same conclusion that Jesus was a real person. And so maybe the book with all these different cross references that literally seems impossible, maybe that book is right, and maybe that book is actually telling the truth about what Jesus did. Maybe all the disciples who really did die for their faith after they saw Jesus had resurrected, maybe they were right, maybe they were telling the truth. And maybe, just maybe, all of this is actually true. The Bible is actually true. God is real. Jesus really did die and raise from the grave, and man, maybe it is all true. I believe it is. I strongly believe it is. But more than just facts and evidence that God is real, I want to share with you my personal testimony of why I believe God is real. I've seen God completely change my life. I've seen Jesus change my life. I know Jesus is real because I know the difference between me with him and me without him. Before Jesus, I never did anything crazy in my life. I never drank, smoked, did any crazy stuff, but I did have a God-sized hole in my heart that no amount of money, pleasure, power, success, or anything in this world could ever fill. Growing up, my main identity was basketball. I was all in with basketball, day in and day out, working, grinding, trying to play Division I basketball and go pro someday, and that was my entire life. And I never really felt satisfied. I mean, it was fun. I loved basketball, but I never really had a true purpose in my life. It was always the next game. I need to do better. I need to do this, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when that becomes your identity, it's just empty and meaningless. And not until I really had a real relationship with Jesus when I was 18 years old, and I really started feeling purpose, fulfillment, and peace and joy that this world can't take or give. The world can't take what the world can't give. I look back and think about my life without Jesus and without God, and it was meaningless. It was empty. I mean, life without God is like an unsharpened pencil. It has no point. I realized that I'm nothing without God, but with God, I have everything, and God has completely changed my life. I've seen God move in my life. I've seen him do the impossible. There's been things that he brought me through that there's no way I could have got myself through it. And just reading the Bible has completely changed my life, and following his commandments, following his rules. It's not like he's trying to keep me from all the fun. God literally knows best. God literally wrote the basic instructions before leaving earth, the Bible. And the more I read the word, the better my life is. And it doesn't mean my life is easy, but it does mean I'm living the way God intended, and that's the best way to live. God wrote the success formula in the book. If you want to be successful, read the Bible. And that doesn't just mean monetarily or financially. It means in every single area of your life, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationshiply, whatever word that is, relationally. I think that's the word. God literally changed every area of my life, and I could not imagine doing life without God. And so this is all my thoughts and opinions on why I believe God is real. And I hope you guys took something away from this video. I've wanted to do this video for a while now. I don't know if I did a good job, but this is honestly just everything I think. And if you're on the fence right now, if you don't know if you believe in God, if you're kind of halfway, I challenge you, research it. Study. Look at the things I said in this video and go do your own research and find out for yourself. The more you study, the more you observe, I guarantee you're going to find God, and you're going to realize that God is not just real, but he is good. He is still a miracle worker. He's still a provider, a healer, a chain breaker, and a way maker. Can I get a man?